Welcome to the Popish Plot. I'm Mike.
And I'm Jessica.
And we are here with a very rare Sunday Bible Bite.
But wasn't the whole point of Bible Bites being that this is a reading you probably wouldn't hear because, you're not necessarily going to daily mass?
Or, in this case, a reading you probably didn't pay that much attention to and or wasn't focused on in the homily.
True.
So, today's readings are great.
Okay.
We've got a reading from Sirach.
What?
We'll get back to that.
Okay.
Because that's going to be most people's reaction, which is why it makes such a good opportunity for a Bible Bite. Then you've got a reading from Paul's first letter to those pesky Corinthians.
Which was possibly his second letter, but the first one wasn't in the Bible.
The first one was apparently lost.
Yeah.
Why? Not divinely inspired, therefore not important enough to be included in the canon. Which is great because he's talking about, what eye has not seen, ear has not heard, classic stuff.
Yes, very poetic and such.
And then when we get into the gospel, we get a really long passage from the Sermon on the Mount.
Or a shorter passage that's chopped up like every other verse.
Or an extremely choppy version of the same passage from the Sermon on the Mount. Mm-hmm. And again, these are gold readings. Like the readings we get every Sunday are great, but these are really well-known ones because they're gone over so often. Mm-hmm. And so, almost certainly, in either Father's or Deacon's homily, he really wasn't focused on Sirach. Because there's a lot of rich stuff in Paul and Corinthians. There's a lot of rich stuff in the Gospel. I mean, it's the frigging Sermon on the Mount.
Yes. I mean, even if he phoned it in, he probably already has a Sermon on the Mount homily set up where he's like, this is what I do.
Or several.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, in all of that, as good as Sirach is, it may have gotten a little bit lost in the shuffle. Now, of course, you expressed some unfamiliarity with Sirach at the top of the show because, well, it's a bit of an obscure book.
Uh-huh. Is it one of the lesser prophets?
No, Sirach is one of the wisdom books. It's from the 2nd century BC, written in the diaspora. I think it's Alexandria. Now, this book is known by several titles.
That might be the issue.
That's another issue. The best is Sirach, because it then lets you make all sorts of sriracha jokes. But it's also known as the Wisdom of Ben Sira.
See, I've heard of that one.
Or Ecclesiasticus. Not to be confused with Ecclesiastes.
That sounds like a Roman who's going to stand up and insist he's Spartacus.
I'm Ecclesiasticus. No, I'm Ecclesiasticus.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that name simply means it's like something that's read before the assembly, because this is a good thing to read before the assembly.
It does sound like the root is the same as church.
Precisely.
I've been doing very poorly on learning Latin, but there's a few ones I got.
Mm-hmm. That kahal, which becomes ecclesia. Yeah. From which we get all kinds of stuff, including, Ecclesiastes and Ecclesiasticus. Mm-hmm. I'm Ecclesiasticus. I like that. So this reading is one that's very near and dear to my heart. This is one of the first passages of Scripture when I was, undergoing my awakening that really spoke out to me, that really touched my heart.
So I imagine it's also short, which is also why you're not going to get the homily on it.
There's also that. Mm-hmm. But it contains some profound truths. So, here it is from Ye Olde copyright-free version. Mm-hmm. The reading we got was Sirach 15, chapter 15, verses 15 through 20. We're focusing here especially on 15 through 17. Yeah. If thou wilt keep the commandments and perform acceptable fidelity forever, they shall preserve thee. He hath set water and fire before thee. Stretch forth thy hand, to which thou wilt. Before man is life and death, good and evil. That which he shall choose shall be given him.
All right, that seems like he just copied off of, Joshua.
Well, here's the thing.
I mean, it's very wise words.
No, you're in no way wrong.
I probably heard that and just assumed it was Joshua's one.
Well, it's like almost anything from Deuteronomy, you will also find in either Exodus, Numbers, or Leviticus.
Yes, but when you're reading those, your eyes gloss over of the list of all the unclean birds, including bats and what forth. So
or
you need a few repeats.
Or if you've heard the words of Jesus from Mark, you may have heard almost the exact same words of Jesus from Matthew, or the almost exact same words from Luke.
But not John.
But not John, because John's going from a whole nother source.
John's like, you already know these. You've told them 3 times. This is the other stuff you need to know.
So even if you hear something, even if there's a great church teaching that was articulated, say, by Venerable Fulton Sheen, it would still behoove us to hear the same subject addressed by, say, Father Mike Schmitz, only because people will tune in to the new thing who won't tune into the old.
Plus, he'll say it twice as fast.
Yes.
So I'll be able to absorb more information.
He'll say it at twice the speed and with 100% less capes. So pluses and minuses. Pluses and minuses.
The capes are neutral.
No, the cape is a giant plus.
Okay.
I want my religion with more funny hats and more capes. But the thing that really sticks out to me is, if thou wilt keep the commandments, they shall preserve thee. Sometimes we fall into the trap of thinking, sure, that's the ideal, or what Jesus says in the Sermon on the Mount, that's the ideal, but I can't actually do it. But the thing is, every one of us can. I'm not arguing a Pelagianism here, where we can do it by ourselves. But if we just allow the grace of God to work through us, if we surrender ourselves to his will, we can do what he's asking us to do. As the apostle said, well, then who can be saved? For men it's impossible. But with God, all things are possible. If you die to yourself and take up your cross daily, you can even keep the commandments. Principally as the Lord has distilled them, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind, and then to love your neighbor as yourself. Or the even shorter distillation, love each other as I have loved you. We can do that, as infuriating as the people we meet every day are, as frustrating as the people we encounter are, if we persevere in prayer, if we keep the commandments, if we say, not my will, but thine be done, we can keep the commandments. And then we extend our hand towards the water, not towards the fire. We extend our hand towards life, not towards death.
Okay. I'm just saying, fire and water, depending on what context,
Absolutely.
is good or bad. So I had to see, okay, they went life and death. So.
Yeah, it's only because the water and life are first, and then fire. Water, life, and good are first.
Yes.
Fire, death, and evil are second.
Yes, because in both cases, it can go either way.
Yes. Fire is both good and bad. Water is both good and bad. But all about context.
Yep. All right. So now, even if you've been to church and you heard this, probably in more modern English, because this is not the official one that's used during Mass, but...
Copyright free, baby.
Yes. You can now be like, oh, yeah. Yeah, I think I heard that. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I was trying to find a good seat, and and then they started playing the psalm, and it was out of my head.
Yeah. Because you probably thought the same thing 3 years ago, and then right out of your head. And 3 years before that, and then right out of your head. But the great thing is, it keeps coming around again, because we always need to hear these words over and over again. If we want, and if we cooperate with God, we can keep the commandments. So,
go down below, comment with what your homily was about, which reading, or is it one of those ones where Father went off on a tangent and you're like, I don't even know what that had to do with the readings.
It was good stuff, but what did that have to do with the readings?
Yeah, every once in a while they read something and you're like, this is great, I have to share it, and this is their one time to share it, really.
Like this video, subscribe to our channel, ring the church bell to be notified when the next brilliant plot is uploaded, and until next time, continue to extend your hand towards life, not towards death, towards good, not towards evil. Please, I beg you.
And remember to live your faith.
Love your faith. Share that love.
I'm Ecclesiasticus.
I'm Ecclesiasticus. And we're out. Oh, I like that bit.